Light and L are rivals to one another in terms of intellect and at the top of their own verse. When compared to others aside from themselves, they are unparalleled and unmatched. But what if we were to spice things up? How would Light and L, doing against the combined intellect of Nier, Mello, and Beyond Birthday, all of L's successors against the greatest detective to ever live, partner up with the god of the new world? Before we get into the video, make sure that you like, subscribe. We're getting close to hitting 50k, so if you enjoy, sub up. Light and L sitting in the top of the new Kira Task Force building contemplate about the foes. You know, when you spend your time on the desktop scripting and recording, like I do, your mousepad gets quite dirty and you have to clean up that gunk from your fabric pad, which can get quite annoying. Spill some coffee, it's game over. So this is why I got myself a glass mousepad, and the swiftness of wiping it once with a paper towel was game-changing. This is the new Arcade Twins pad from Wallhack, which is the sponsor for today's video. I've partnered with them not only because they have the smoothest pads on the market, but also these amazing anime-themed styles, as you can see right here. The fact that not only is it just an anime design, but it takes up nearly the whole desk. The Arcade Twins drops on the 17th with 5,300 individual numbered pads worldwide. Wallhack limited drops often sell out within seconds at their website once launched. Once out of stock, they are never restocked, and you're only able to get them on second-hand markets. The SP004 is one of the highest rated mousepads in the peripheral space, with multiple tech reviewers and pros recommending the glass mousepad experience. From it being on the grand final stages of Apex Legends Valorant World Championships, you can play just like the pros. Especially now with Marvel Rivals out, you might want to have it to climb that ranked leaderboard faster. Also, I know what you're thinking. No, you can't use regular glass from your Windows. This won't work. This is a custom micro-etched silicate glass surface that is fully optimized for gaming. Make sure to check out all their products at wallhack.com. I repeat, wallhack.com, and be in store for the Arcade Twins drop on the 17th. And of course, make sure to use code EVENT at the checkout. If you don't know these intelligence terms that I'm about to use, I've defined them in more videos like these, which will pop up now. But still, you understand what I'm getting at. Nier and Mello showcase very good feats of verbal comprehension early on in Death Note's second part. Nier repeatedly solves and completes entirely white jigsaw puzzles in record amounts of time. Such a task requires immense levels of structural visualization, spatial design awareness, and pattern recognition. Furthermore, ever since he had taken L with him, it is mentioned that Watari personally funds some of the most complex puzzles, which he puts at the disposal of the Whammy House children, which further underpins the quality of this feat. Mello is also shown to have consistently scored second in the general examination and assessment curriculum of the 4th generation of Whammy's House beneath Nier. In order to scale the quality of this feat, it should be safe to assume that the tests are quite extensive and complex in metric after the reader sees him studying with dozens of books around. Additionally, as per strictly canonical information applicable from the novels, it is also made clear that the children at Whammy House, based on their skills and interests, are provided with some of the best education available worldwide, and get to learn from talented experts, university professors and professionals of all fields, so as to make them well-rounded and knowledgeable in all kinds of different spheres. Beyond Birthday should also scale to Nier and Mello in terms of verbal comprehension index, but actually be above them due to the feats he portrayed in the LABB murder case novel. He's able to create an extremely complex crossword puzzle that a team of investigators couldn't solve. In the novel, and I quote, "It was a very difficult puzzle and no one could solve it. Of course, we could also take that to mean no one applied themselves to it seriously, but it seems reasonable to hypothesize that several policemen working together were unable to solve the puzzle." L. However, L was able to not only understand the crossword puzzle, but he was able to understand the book anagram that Beyond Birthday made, which would be even harder puzzle to solve than the crossword one. L's feats in verbal comprehension index may not be as straightforward and solid as BB's, but his comprehension and ability to solve the impossible should lead to L taking verbal comprehension index and absolutely carrying Light. Therefore, verbal comprehension index goes to Light and L, and also you can say that Light has a lot of general knowledge and all that sort of stuff from his studying in cram school. Performing monitor hacks would be one of Nier and Mello's greatest feats in working memory index. We've witnessed all of Wami's key students, including Nier and Mello, replicate some sort of feat like this. Mainly Nier, obviously, as he is the one that actually does it on a bigger scale. Nier has done it in Death Note Chapter 91. Nier can be seen holding information from dozens of monitors placed around the room, each sending multiple sources of information, some of which are in different languages. Logically, Nier should be able to see the monitors in his peripheral vision, allowing him to process, memorize, and mentally manipulate information from so many sources, several dozens of visuals at once. Mello also demonstrated his proficiency with some sort of monitor hacks when the Mafia got raided by the MPA. On the way to his monitor room, Mello notices the notebook under one of the bodies of the Mafia members. He requests that some of the other mobsters bring it up to the room, filled with monitors. Mello is seeing them watching multiple screens, and if you don't want to give him any charity for that, there's also Beyond Birthday, who hasn't showcased the monitor hacks in any form of media, but since he's a Whammy House student, he should be able to replicate some sort of hacks, considering that BB is scaled pretty high in Death Note. Although in canon, Nier has seemingly showcased the monitor hacks at a larger level than L, we still can't discredit the fact that in Change the World, L was able to perform this feat and watch over 50 monitors at a time, in multiple languages like Nier. He takes this a step further and performs the feat at an even greater level during the LA BB murder case to track down Beyond Birthday. Keep in mind that he has to tap into monitors playing information around the case from a global level. Countries like the United States, Japan, and etc. I firmly believe that Working Memory Index should go to L, as his experience should carry him in this category, especially considering he improves and grows smarter with age, and the fact that when performing the monitor feat at such an insanely high level, he was able to find his target quicker than Nier did, who was listening in on the monitor for quite some time. So, Working Memory Index goes to Light and L. And if you don't want to be charitable to Mello and the other Whammy House students to be able to perform this, then yeah, Light and L also easily just take this anyway. Mello's best feats involving induction and deduction stem from his last plot to defeat Light once and for all. His final plan is very impressive because despite having incomplete information, zero resources, his Mafia group eliminated and no prep time, Mello was able to predict Light and Nier's endgame, see through what Nier couldn't, and masterfully exploit the vague vulnerability in Light's plan. However, this feat focuses on strategy/planning, with hints of induction and deduction, which is still exceptional. While Mello was making the greatest progress, he seemed to continuously run into obstacles when it came to moving forward with the case. Nier was able to essentially corner Light and force him to reveal the 13-day rule, the key component of his memory loss strategy, using only the information of a fake rule from the notebook and Shinigami. This meant his 50 days in prison had been for naught, and he was once again suspected by Japanese police officers. BB should honestly scale higher than Nier and Mello in Fluid Reasoning Index due to being a part of the first generation of Whammy's house, which was far harder than Nier and Mello's generation, the fourth generation. The first generation of Whammy's house was so difficult that it was labeled a prototype and designed to fail, even going as far as driving children like A to suicide, but B was able to survive and adapt to such a hostile environment. At the cost of his sanity, he was able to use what he learned from Whammy's house to create a case that L was almost unable to solve. This included wiping his fingerprints from the Wadaningo dolls, locked rooms, and crossword puzzles, book anagram, and the complex crime scenes that he all used. But remember, Fluid Reasoning Index, aka deduction and induction and all those sort of reasoning skills, isn't solely based off a problem-solving ability, which also correlates to learning ability, which L is a master at. You can just look at the early case files for L in his past, but if you don't want to take that, you can also just look at how Light and L managed to learn very quickly and adapt, and that just be some sort of learning ability type thing. If you want to take the case files into canon, since some people disagree with it, but will say it is canon for this, L essentially became one of the best businessmen on the planet for foreseeing the rise of technology and advising Watari to invest. As a result, in just 2 years, he was able to make Watari the richest man on the planet by accurately analyzing the stock markets. For this reason, Fluid Reasoning Index goes to Light and L, and even if you don't want to count that file thing, there's still more for them to back it up, considering the canon Death Note is all about how they adapt to each other and learn as they go on. And if you don't know what Visual Spatial Index is, it's basically visualization of complex concepts, mathematical concepts, geometrical shapes, and etc. Just high-level IQ testing type things. And as previously stated, L was able to replicate this at an absurd level numerous times, and had been better showings than Nier and Mello did, so Visual Spatial Index should go to L. Now going on from IQ, which we see that Light and L are dominating, we're going on to EQ, Emotional Quotient or Emotional Intelligence. Mello's best feat of emotional understanding is in Chapter 67 of Death Note, when he directly manipulates the current president of the United States into assisting him and the Mafia with tracking down Kira. Mello understands that if he rejects this offer, he will go down as one of the worst presidents in history, having jeopardized world peace and security in a completely irresponsible manner. This is because, should the president not give in to Mello's demands, he could have simply have the president unleash nuclear weapons on the world via the Death Note, which would have caused World War III. However, BB has arguably an even greater feat in this category. After killing his 3 victims, and before the media's coverage of the Wada Ningyo murders, B fabricates and adopts the false identity of Ryu Ryuzaki, a private detective. This is of course a direct message to L. Via mocking the double-lettered names he uses, R.R, aka LL, which B knows will be passed on to him once he's able to meet with the pawns. It is also worth noting that B had taken the appearance of and disguised himself as L. Contrary to popular misconception, the fact that B chose L to mimic had no real relevance in his plan. It was most likely out of his unruly obsession with L. More importantly, as part of his plan, was that his disguise needed to require several layers of heavy makeup, a detail which will have much importance later. In any case, B had been able to imitate and mimic L in appearance, manners, thinking, etc., to virtual perfection, without having ever met him. This is particularly impressive considering that Naomi herself can't tell L apart from B in the end of the novel. When she sees the real L, she's confused out of her mind, because he looks, acts, and has the same aura as B. So much so that she asks him if they had met before, indicating that B's act had left a mark in her mind, which suddenly arose when she saw him in the flesh. B also uses his newly obtained persona to seek out the victims' families. He persuades them to hire him as a private detective, so as to solve the tragedy that struck their loved ones. He had most likely managed to do so by using their sorrow, guilt, and loss to manipulate them into accepting his offer. B had gotten himself free and reliable access to the crime scenes, which would allow him to lead the pawns once they arrived. So how do Light and L compare? Well, L's best feat of emotional understanding would be his grasp of Light's emotions, motivations, and general psychological state without ever meeting him. This feat is even more insane when you understand the context, that being Kira has absolutely zero evidence of existing. So, he is purely just an abstraction in L's head, whom he profiles from just the fact that criminals around the world are dying, through impossible means, such as cardiac arrest. L was able to come to this conclusion, based off Kira isn't an adult, due to his straightforward and simplistic way of thinking, which means he's young, at most a young adult, or at least, very least, he's a high school student. Kira is prideful and arrogant, as shown by his reaction to Lindell Taylor. Kira has everything he needs in his life. He's not killing criminals out of desperation or desire. He must be killing criminals for a high sense of purpose. This leads into the next point, that being, Kira has a very strong sense of justice, as he wants to cleanse the world in a way he believes is absolute and just. All of this is simply L's understanding of Kira, someone that the world had deemed to be supernatural and outright a god. And L was able to understand this so-called being just based off the way criminals were dying in unexplained ways. BB's understanding of someone as abstract and intelligent as L is one thing, but L's understanding of Light is far more impressive. The Kira case was easily L's hardest work yet, and he essentially met his match, and before he could outright engage in battle with him, he had to understand this godlike individual. It also doesn't help that Light having the Death Note and the assistance of a Shinigami complicates this case even more. But L was able to navigate and understand its circumstances. For this reason, I believe emotional understanding goes to Light and L. Nier's feats in emotional engagement are shown in the See Kira story. If you don't know what emotional engagement is, it's when you put all your energy into a task or goal. When Rester and Linder come to inform Nier that news pertaining to Kira is currently swarming Japan, of course he had already connected it to Kira based on the mass patterns of victims, Nier reflects on his methods and thinks as to how L would have acted and approached the case in this place. Nier assumes that L would have seen the present See Kira as a cheap, pathetic iteration of the Kira persona, especially in comparison to Light, whom he deemed evil, but grand and bold in intellect. As for Mello, after being summoned to Roger's office back at Whammy's and informed that L had passed away, Mello decides to take matters into his own hands, refusing to work with Nier out of sheer hatred, yet also acknowledging his paralleled potential. Mello leaves the orphanage at almost 15 years of age, funneling his rage and drive into capturing Kira. He travels to America and quickly soars up to the top ranks of a huge criminal gang, eliminating mafia bosses who were beyond Kira's reach, as mentioned by his recently subordinated mobsters. Having witnessed his incredible intellectual skills and capabilities, the members of the mafia quickly came to trust and respect Mello, and thus submit to his lead, giving him the tools and fuel he requires to become number one. Mello's feat of emotional engagement may just sound like that of a genius child throwing a tantrum, but it also goes as far and deeper once you understand Mello as a character. Due to the environment he grew up in, he admired L. His desire to surpass Nier was to prove to not just the institution that raised him, but to the world that he was worth something. He was constantly overshadowed by Nier, and once L died, he lost the opportunity to be acknowledged by L himself. So his refusal to work with Nier and to build his own path necessary to solve the Kira case and beat Nier is bigger than just jealousy. He also intends to avenge L and properly put him to rest by completing the puzzle for him. Now, BB's best feat of emotional engagement would literally be his purpose for creating the Los Angeles BB murder case. He had the desire to surpass L and prove that he was an extreme genius. This is due to the abuse and torment that he suffered from Wemi's house, which eventually turned into hatred for L due to how much he was idolized and forced to become like him. However, Light takes it one step further in terms of emotional engagement. His worldview is so vast, he was able to quickly come to the realization that the world is rotten, all at the age of 17. He decides to use the Death Note, a weapon to kill, in order to create a new world free of criminals. Light is able to become Kira and gain support in not just Japan, but have influence span across the entire world. The world sees Kira as justice, and it gets to the point where they see Kira as a god. Light understands that killing criminals is wrong, and he also understands that if he were to actually kill every bad person in the world. But to Light, the ends justify the means. So Lion L take emotional engagement. And just to quickly tell you, L himself, crazy emotional engagement. He really locks himself in a room and solves cases daily. And he gets tunnel vision. Mello's most notable feat of emotional management, aka just managing your emotions or others, would be keeping his composure during the second raid of the Mafia hideout, all the way between the death of virtually all of the mobsters and up to the point where he is ready to put his life at stake, if it means he can escape, even at the price of near-fatal wounds. He had successfully improvised his evasion on the spot, under extreme pressure and conditions, all the while monitoring the activity of the raiders. What's even crazier is that despite having his real name revealed in front of him, as well as his life hanging by a thread due to Sorichiro threatening to write his name in the notebook, he still managed to call his bluff and keep calm. Nier's best feat of emotional management would be purposely managing Aizawa's emotions in Chapter 94 of Death Note by convincing him that if he stays put and keeps his watch on L2, Light, then Nier will be able to bring about Kira's downfall, a thought which motivates Aizawa into following his orders. However, I'd say that emotional management should still go to Light and L. Light is able to work under pressure numerous times, and is able to even throw off L, a master at human psychology, with his elaborate strategies and plans. It goes as far as L outright revealing his identity to Light, putting him in a precarious situation. If Light even showed a hint of reaction, L would be 100% sure that Light is Kira. After all, why would an innocent person react so strongly to a stranger telling him that they are L? The detective going after Kira. It would be like Light admitting that he is Kira, right then and there. But Light is able to remain calm and keep his cool, putting him one step ahead of L. And also, don't forget, Light is able to at least manage people emotionally because he is a good leader. Only in the end does he kind of messed up, but you know. So L and Light get emotional management. In Chapter 64 of Death Note, the notebook had been stolen by Mello and the Mafia. Light, under the guise of L2, or L's replacement, was actively trying to recover it, while as Nier observed. Nier then proceeds to taunt Light over the notebook being stolen, by asking him if he had any feasible plans to retrieve the notebook. Nier also aims to broaden his profiling of L2 by judging from his reaction to the fact that, at this rate, the kidnappers will undoubtedly gain possession of the notebook without any major inconvenience. At this point, Nier is truly messing with Light's emotional state, attempting to induce anxiety into his mind, to trick him into dropping his facade, hoping to obtain some form of information on him. This right here was Nier's ability to emotionally perceive Light. Emotional perception is basically being able to see through people. Mello's best feat of emotional perception as well is in Chapter 79 of Death Note. Even though Nier's assistance was required, it was Mello who was able to see through Mogi, with help from Nier. Mello sets up a trap for the MPA members to disclose information. He calls Mogi's cell phone without a voice scrambler to assure them that it is him on the other end. Of the line. Mello then asks Mogi if he is alone right now, / if he has other people close to him who would be able to overhear their conversation. Of course, Mello had purposely asked those questions knowing that the rest of the MPA would be listening, to give them the impression that he wanted to tell Mogi something of high importance, that no one else should be taking knowledge of it. He wanted to lead the agents of the MPA into believing that he was desperate for information, that he was having trouble recovering from his previous collapse, when in truth he was setting them up. When Mogi denies being around anyone, Mello sees through him and purposely he leads him to New York to meet him, knowing that the MPA will attempt to track him down to erase him from the equation. Abusing the MPA's quench for intel, Mello tells Mogi that he won't tell him anything unless he agrees right then and now to go to the place he indicated without any wires or cameras. Mello had asked for his immediate consent, knowing that if he gave Mogi the possibility to hang up, then he would have been able to devise some sort of plan with his colleagues. However, Mello had directed Mogi straight to Nier's place for questioning instead, knowing that the task force would take the bait. Mello calls Nier, telling him that a man from the MPA is heading right to the SBK's headquarters, describing his characteristics over the phone, and that therefore he wants him to ask all the questions he wants as long as he can hear them as well through his bugged cell phone. Thus, Mello had completely guaranteed his safety by using this method, all the while being able to passively extract information from Nier's interrogation. Light also brings forth the possibility that Mello had purposely let the MPA overhear Nier's conversation with Mogi to emotionally affect them, taking into consideration the possibility that Kira is among the MPA. When Mogi refrains from talking, Mello posits that Mogi might already be under Kira's control, whether with or without the help of the notebook, and that therefore there's a strong chance that Kira is hiding within the MPA, since only its members know of the current meeting unraveling. Mello remarks that there is no other feasible reason for Mogi's silence, since after all, they want to catch Kira. Knowing that this will undoubtedly install suspicion and doubt in the minds of the agents, Mello then also intentionally states that he had his mob thugs test the notebook for him and that no one died after 13 days, meaning that the rule is completely fake. Mello and Nier had together managed to completely fool, control, and manipulate the task force into giving them information regardless of how Mogi would act. If Mogi doesn't talk, Kira equals L. If Mogi does talk, then they both manage to extract information from the attendants of the investigation under L. So emotional perception should go to Nier, Mello, and Beyond Birthday. Nier, Mello, and Beyond Birthday, L Successors, all had the potential to succeed L. That's why they're named L Successors. They were on the line up, and would have had to specialize in everything L learnt, things like business studies, political science, computer science, forensics, criminology, and so on. Light should also have knowledge of computer science due to his proficiency in hacking, chemistry, due to the Death Note drawer contraption, at the very least, a basic understanding of business studies as he was able to accurately analyze the stock market and figure out the Yosuba group had the Death Note, and easily has enough knowledge of law due to his aspirations to become a detective. However, L should have far more knowledge than everyone on this list. Yes, the Death Note data books describe Light and Nier having a 9/10 in terms of intelligence, when in actuality it's referring to knowledge. But I still have a hard time believing that Light should have more knowledge than L. L specializes in detective work, yes, but the curriculum of Wami's house has world specialists coming to teach the children, all of which are at the very most, probably PhD level. And if you don't want to say that, a bit lower, but still, a lot of different studies in different fields. Light is a student who went to private school, but that pales in comparison to being taught by the world's greatest. But Light and L are on the same team anyway, so it doesn't matter. Knowledge goes to L and Light. Strategy and planning. Nier's best feat of planning would be the final plan, used to put an end to the Kira case once and for all. However, we need to remember that if it had not been for Mello's sacrifice, Nier wouldn't have considered the possibility of a second notebook, and one step ahead of Light. To fully explain this, we need to analyze chapter 104 of Death Note. Nier gives all the credit for his victory to Mello, who had engineered this very situation by kidnapping Takeda, making his plan successful. Nier makes Light look at one of the pages of the fake notebook, which keep in mind has identical contents when compared to the real one. On this page, Mikami had written down Takeda's name when she was kidnapped, knowing that Light could have not made any moves. fearing that she would reveal details about Kira to the police in the event of her being captured. This means that Mikami had taken out the real notebook, which was hidden in his very own safe deposit bank, to kill Takeda. According to Giovanni, who had been instructed to probe Mikami to discern some of his habits, Mikami went to the bank following the news of Takeda's kidnapping. On October 25th had been a Sunday, meaning that Mikami went back to the bank on the 26th. However, Giovanni had noticed that Mikami went to the bank on the 25th of each month before the meeting. September, October, November, and December. Therefore, when Mikami had gone to the bank on the 25th of January and returned on the 26th, when Takeda was kidnapped, Giovanni found it extremely strange for him, an extremely methodical man, to break his clockwork habits. Once he had entered the bank, Giovanni had spotted Mikami heading for the safe deposit room, where, for once, he had seemed to be nervous about someone following him. Nia proceeds to explain that Mikami lives a completely fixed lifestyle, but that suddenly, when Takeda was kidnapped, he decided to go to the bank twice, thus breaking away from his predetermined lifestyle, which would make anyone observing him very suspicious. It would seem very strange considering the results of Giovanni's long-term research as well. Nia then managed to sense the possibility of a fake notebook being carried around by Mikami, realizing that he, under the orders of Kira, had purposely used the note in public and talked to himself, saying he didn't have a Shinigami to misdirect and lure the SBK agents into Light's trap. Nia then explains that it wasn't hard for them to crack open Mikami's safe, since it was an old-fashioned one at a local bank. Furthermore, since Light had allowed the SBK to search Mikami's belongings, it was quite easy to create replicas of his keycards, which would give them full access to his possessions. The difference between Nia and Mello's planning is that Nia is more long-term due to his way of working, which is not taking action until it's truly within his best interests. Mello's planning, however, is more short-term, but usually yields better results. Though at the same time, his plans are a lot more riskier. Usually when Mello long-term plans, he achieves a decent amount, but not enough considering the prep time. He's better under these short-term ones. His plan to steal the Death Note resulted in the deaths of the members of the Mafia, and his final plan resulted in Matt's death. With Mello's crazy nature and Nia's methodicalness, they make a great team. But Beyond Birthday should arguably have better feats than Nia and Mello in planning due to being able to create a case that almost outsmarted L, if not for Beyond Birthday understanding Naomi Misori's deduction ability. But even so, Light's memory loss plan and final strategy to beat Nia was absolutely flawless. The memory loss plan was so great that Light was able to free both him and Misa of suspicion against tons and a ponderous amount of evidence. It's even more crazy when you realize that L recovered DNA evidence of Misa off the Kira's tape, which would practically have her dead to rights. Light's memory loss plan was so genius that it legitimately left L stumped and depressed for quite some time. It would only be outsmarted again by Light when he regained his memories and killed Higuchi with a piece of the Death Note. Light's final strategy to defeat Nia was also incredible, as he saw through every outcome and essentially made a plan to create a fake notebook, indirectly manipulate Nia and the SBK to steal the very same fake notebook, and have Mikami bring the real one to the warehouse to kill them all. I mean this in the most non-sarcastic way possible, but Light's plan was so great, the only thing that could beat him was the plot itself. Either way, strategy and planning should also go to Lion L. So who wins? The man born of death, the true successor to L, and the man that outsmarted God, or the God of the New World, and the man gifted God's intuition. The Successors should take emotional perception, and you could argue they take emotional engagement, but that's really about it. Lion L working together is so cracked that they would honestly sweep in terms of categories. L on his own could arguably take on Nia, Mello, and Beyond Birthday and come out in an outsmarting situation to high, extreme difficulty. But aiding him with Light, who debatably has the best feats of outsmarting strategy and planning in the verse, well, as the title suggests, it's, well, as you know, it's just not close. I could see Lion L winning with mid-high difficulty, and that's being generous. But how do you think the battle of the mind between the 5 geniuses would go? Do you disagree, agree? Leave a comment down below. But with that out of the way, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.